Welcome to another Pittsburgh Sports Line. Happy New Year. First show of 2016. Thanks for watching us on Verizon 32 in Bethel Park and everywhere from Cranberry and Wexford to Nemacolin. Also, thanks for watching us on Comcast. I heard a lot of people were watching us, more than I even thought. So I'm getting good reports, guys. Just unbelievable. So thanks for watching us on Comcast 7. Appreciate that. You know what? I was just checking the likes, about an hour or so ago, and I saw we're at 5,072. So nice way to start the new year. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for all those likes. And you know, if you like us first, I will like your page with and reason. You guys know the drill about Smoking Jim. We're not going to talk about him in a bad way yet. So I'm trying not to pick on him. That was not my New Year's resolution. Because when you see the hat, well, you'll see that in a minute. I just can't control myself. I'm Al Levine, the talking machine. We got Chip the Prophet Hayner. And Smoking Jim is back from a little hiatus at the end of last year. And please don't show the hat that he is wearing. Oh, Smoking Jim's not here yet. Okay.
Yeah,
I hear his laugh.
Hey, from the eyes down.
If you can do that. They say they don't see his eyes too often
Show
with
the
the
white
hat.
of my eyes.
They look a little red to me. We may have some troubles. But we always start our show with what's on your mind, and we're going to do the same thing for this year. And I want to thank everybody for helping us to be an award-winning show again. More awards than we ever had before. And it takes all of you watching us. It takes my co-hosts here to help me. So I appreciate it. And I'll tell you about another thing that the mayor sent me last night in the middle of our show. So we'll get to that. And let's start with what's on your mind. Smoking Jim Frazier.
Thanks, Al Levine, the talking machine.
Hey, I'm glad the camera's focused on me. This is live TV.
Hey, wait. Oh, look, we're there. Hi, everybody.
Thanks, Al Levine, the talking machine. And if you want the green,
It's coming at you,
got
buddy.
to see Levine.
Do the
My
Billy
old
White
high
Shoes dance.
school- Yeah, my old
You
high
keep
school
that pen. You look like
quarterback.
you're a pen short.
All right, I'm a pen short today.
All right, take
Now,
that.
I'll be real quick.
And a day late.
I tell you what,
Yes.
one of the things that I love to do in this business and feel very blessed to do is to find somebody that's doing something and shining the spotlight on them. And that's basically all we ever do in terms of interviewing people or talking to people or meeting people. And one of the youngest guys we ever interviewed on the show was a young kid out of Rochester High School, or Rochester, PA. Came from a great family. And Pittsburgh Sports Line Player of the Week last week was a young man that we interviewed when he was just a little kid. He's a sophomore point guard at Rochester, scored 21 points in a game last week. Caleb Collins is the Pittsburgh Sports Line Player of the Week. Good luck, Caleb. Keep up the good work, buddy.
Oh, it's Smoking
That's
Jim.
what's on my mind.
Oh, before you go, that was too short and sweet. We got new fans that are watching the show. They heard rumors that it was a Spotlight Player of the Week during football. Then you threw out Gateway during the football thing because of basketball. So are we continuing in 2016?
Yeah, it was
High
never
school-
football. It was just high school player of the week.
Is that what it is?
Any sport, volleyball.
Why didn't you explain that?
Yeah,
instead?
volleyball, golf, everybody's up for it.
That wasn't in the rules.
And in college, I took some
Let me check.
archery classes, so if
Is that
somebody's
what it
out
is
there,
then?
Right?
Yeah.
That followed your basket weaving.
That's it.
So to
Oh,
get
you
this
got
straight,
4.0 in that one.
you know there's a lot of award-winning kids here in Bethel Park.
Yeah,
I think you're missing some
Well,
of
the
them.
first couple of was from Bethel. Running
All
back,
right, because
junior running back,
it's
the quarterback.
thanks to
senior
Bethel
quarterback.
Park that you're able to wear a Bengals hat.
Yeah.
You're able to talk about Gateway, not too often, because I don't know what happened to them.
The Bethel Park girls are doing a very good job. Like I said, next week you'll probably be hearing a boys and girls player of the week from around the WPIL or city.
Maybe even here.
Perhaps. Keep up the good work.
Smoking Jim is doing what they call a tease. He's not only teasing you, but he's teasing me because it'll just be one Spotlight Player of the Week. And if you heard him, and I know I'm not picking on him, for all those people think I'm picking on him, he said Spotlight Player of the Week. You might hear 2 of them.
Gotta have some honorable mentions.
All I want is you to revive the top 10, whatever it is in any sport, okay? And that's what I look forward to, if we could have that sometime.
Me and Steve Harvey don't make no mistakes.
Well, I don't know if you can be in his class since that was scripted. You're unscripted. But let's move on. Chip Hayner, what's on your mind?
Well, thank you, Alan, and Happy New Year, everybody. Another year to look forward to, another year behind us. So, my friend Jim Frazier said that Steve Harvey doesn't make any mistakes, and that may be true. But if he does misspeak, he does take ownership of it. But I would like to bring to everybody's attention an organization that does nothing but make mistakes and is continuing to make mistakes and will make mistakes well into the following year. And that is the joke up in Cleveland that the Pittsburgh Steelers played last week. Now, the Cleveland Browns have fired their general manager and they fired their head coach. So now they're looking for their 10th head coach in the last 10 years. So,
Wow.
this is this is how you build a stable organization and a winning attitude. Now, the guy that owns the Browns was a minority owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and saw him talking to Mr. Dan Rooney before the game,
Yeah.
And I would think that Dan would have passed on a little knowledge to this guy.
We did, but they weren't smiling. I
But,
watched them. They weren't smiling.
let's just look at what the Cleveland Browns have done just in the last 3 days. This is just, a microcosm of everything they've done over the last 17 years that they've been back in the NFL. Okay, they fired the general manager before the game. No big deal. Everybody knew Ray Farmer was gone. He had hung himself much
Earlier, yeah.
Yeah, much earlier in the season. Mike Pettin, he lost 17 of his last 20 games. That doesn't, lead to longevity in the NFL coaching ranks. So now the Browns owner said that they're going to hire a head coach first, and then they'll worry about fulfilling the GM's position. Well, this is another recipe for disaster because now you're going to hire a GM who may not have the same kind of football philosophy that the head coach has. So I'm sure they're going to meld well when the Cleveland Browns pick the second pick in the draft. And that brings me to my other point. The Cleveland Browns are so inept, they can't even get the first pick in the draft.
Now that's a good one.
I mean, you gotta think. The Tennessee Titans now get the second year in a row that they get the first pick in the draft. At least you can call that being successful.
Yeah.
Because they're getting the pick of the litter. So so now the Cleveland Browns today they hire a baseball executive to be their operations officer for the football team. Makes sense to me, don't you think? If he could build a baseball team in Oakland, he could build a football team in Cleveland.
Moneyball.
I don't think that's going to work out as well as they think it is. And last but not least, the quarterback of the future for the Cleveland Browns, Mr. Johnny Manziel. Our guest on the show last week, John Smith, was communicating with me back and forth over the course of the week, and we mentioned the fact that Manziel's in the concussion protocol. My take on that was he wasn't in the concussion protocol. He was hungover. He wanted to avoid getting suspended, so he said, I've got headaches, so instead of them giving him a couple of aspirin, they put him in a concussion protocol, and he did so much damage to his brain that he forgot that the Cleveland Browns were playing in Cleveland on Sunday. So after he left the practice facility Saturday, he went to Vegas, wasn't around, so I think his days are over. But the Cleveland Browns franchise, it's sad because the Cleveland fan base is, one of the oldest in the NFL. They have a very storied tradition prior to moving to Baltimore. But, in a way I feel bad for him, but you know what? Cleveland fans, it's just going to be more of the same. That's what's on my mind.
Thanks, Chip. I actually feel bad for the city of Cleveland there. So.
I can't.
Their team was stolen from them. And then they don't give them the team that was stolen, they give them a bad team.
Alan, They could have stopped that from happening, but, you know.
Yeah, that's true. What's on my mind is Steelers. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Steelers are going to the Super Bowl. I talked last night on location. I won't repeat that exactly, but I will tell you 8-8 was my prediction. I was wrong. I got to admit I was wrong. Hard schedule. They played so many backup quarterbacks, but they couldn't beat them all. We were just talking about that before the show. In a way, I wish LeBeau was here because he had that secret sauce where you could beat the team's second-string quarterback, third-string quarterback. He had a great record with that. So I don't know if it was smoke and mirrors or he had better talent. But with this rebuilding, we're going to rebuild Super Bowl win number 7. It'll be the 50th anniversary of the Super Bowl. What better time for the Steelers, the true America's team? We're in every city and country in the world supporting the Steelers. We know because on Pittsburgh Sportsline we see you chiming in. Let's go Steelers. That's what's on my mind. They will win. Ready?
Let's do it.
All right, we'll go to our segments. I want to hear, this is the first fiction and fact from Smokin' Jim's Almanac in 2016.
Thanks, Al Levine, the talking machine. And for all our new fans, I had to recycle this one. I tell you what, man.
You're an honest man.
I'm an honest man. Had to recycle this one. And we're going all the way back to 2010. 2010, Pittsburgh Steelers had a Hall of Fame to-be wide receiver that bucked the system by the name of Santonio Holmes. So the Steelers traded him to the Jets for a 5th-round draft pick and needed a receiver, so they went out and got Antoine Randall back. And they had one more receiver, room on the roster for a receiver, and they was going to draft one in the 3rd round. And my number 2 rated receiver that year behind only Dez Bryant was a small little kid out of Central Michigan. And I pushed for the Steelers to get him in the 3rd round. And the Pittsburgh Steelers decided to go after SMU's Emmanuel Sanders. So I was upset, almost couldn't eat the rest of my steak.
The 3rd one.
I find that hard to believe.
So in the 6th round, the Steelers had 3 picks in the 6th round, and they were looking for a running back. I suggested LeGarrette Blount, but they went after the overweight Jonathan Dwyer instead. Had another pick in the 6th round, picked somebody else that they cut. And so with the 3rd pick in the 6th round, I remember them saying, we're only going to pick Antonio Brown to shut you up because we're going to cut him. And Antonio Brown came here probably just with a pair of jeans and a T-shirt. The next day in the newspaper, the front page of the paper read, Antonio will replace Antonio. First time ever, 9th pick of the draft and 6th pick overall made the front page of the headlines. But if you got the work ethic and if you got the heart as Antonio Brown, you can make it from the bottom to the top. And he came in and won over the hearts of his teammates with his work ethic and undersized receiver and his talent. And this year he became the first receiver in NFL history to have over 125 pass receptions in back-to-back seasons. There's no Steeler that's ever won more MVPs than 3 in his career. He just tied the Steeler record by being 3rd-time team MVP. And I tell you what, this is a guy that's headed for the Hall of Fame. Former 6th-round pick, former college walk-on at Central Michigan. So if you got a dream big enough and you work hard enough, you can make it. And that's fiction and fact from Smokin' Jim's Almanac.
Smokin' Jim, I've heard it before. You've said it each time about Antonio Brown before he became a star and after he became a star. So anybody that questions the truthfulness of Smokin' Jim,
I'm an honest man.
On this point, he's spot on. So thank you, Smokin' Jim. It's nice to hear some positivity there. Although there might have been something negative that you threw out. I don't know what that was, but thank you. All right, now I can't wait for the first Chip's Trivia Time of 2016.
All right.
Let's hear it, Chip.
Okay. Well, just in line with Jim wearing out his right hand, patting himself on the back. Just to speak to some of the things that Antonio Brown has accomplished just in the last 2 years. 276 receptions in the last 2 years. 276. Wow, had 136 receptions this year for over 1,800 yards. He tied Julio Jones for the league lead in receptions. Fell a little short in the receiving yards, but here's the funny thing. He's played a couple of games with a washed-up has-been at quarterback, which will remain nameless. And had they had anybody that would have thrown him the ball in those games, he would have set the record. He would have broke 2,000-yard receiving season, would have broke the receptions record for the year. But, his accomplishments are still pretty substantial. He broke Marvin Harrison's record from 2001, 2002 in combined receptions. And Antonio Brown became the first player in NFL history with 2 125-plus catch seasons. Back-to-back, pretty amazing stuff, I'd have to say. Now, I'm going to go through a quick run-through some NFL trivia. The NFL and the AFL merged and right after the Super Bowl in 1970. Okay, and at that time there was the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns were part of the NFL. They weren't part of the American Football League, and as part of the merger, the Steelers and the Browns went over to the AFC to strengthen that division because there were fewer teams there, and it was something that the Rooneys did in order for the good of the game, not just for the good of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Minnesota Vikings on January 4th, 1970 become the first expansion team to win the NFL title by beating the Cleveland Browns in 8-degree temperatures in Bloomington, Minnesota. Also on the same day, Kansas City makes 3 of its 4 interceptions in the final quarter, carrying the Chiefs to a 17-7 victory over Oakland Raiders in the last AFL title game. So you have your last AFL champion playing your last NFL champion. In the previous year, the AFL shocked the world when Joe Namath beat Don Shula's Baltimore Colts, heavily favored Colts in the Super Bowl, while Hank Stram and the Kansas City Chiefs pulled the upset again against Joe Kapp and the Minnesota Purple People Eaters defense, and beat them to become the last AFL team to win a Super Bowl, and the last time the Chiefs have won. So now we're in a football mode. We've got playoffs coming up and everything.
Oh, yeah.
In 1976, and this will have some significance because the Dallas Cowboys become the first wild card team to make it to the Super Bowl with a 37-7 rout of the Los Angeles Rams in the NFC title game. Does anybody know who they lost the Super Bowl to? The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow.
Okay, I got a job.
I thought it was a trick one.
No, sometimes it's the obvious elephant in the room.
I know.
Not
I was
the one
only
you can't
thinking
see.
Steelers, but you.
2019, it's January 4th, 2000. Top-ranked Florida State holds off Virginia Tech 46-29 in the Sugar Bowl to finish 12-0 and win the national championship. Florida State is the first team to go wire-to-wire in the Associated Press poll since preseason rankings began in 1950. So that was a fairly significant accomplishment. Now, to win a national championship, I think you've got to win 15 games.
Yeah.
They're increasing the number
Playoffs.
of games, they're increasing the number of bowls, and the television ratings are going straight down the crapper. So I think they need to revisit that. And on also January 4th, 2002, Michael Jordan becomes the 4th player in NBA history to score 30,000 points. He was playing for the Washington Wizards against his Chicago Bulls that night.
Wow.
Now, the last and final thing on my trivia for tonight, being that we've got the Steelers going to the playoffs this week, I think back to 40 years ago today, January 5th, 1976. Pittsburgh Steelers played the Oakland Raiders in the AFC Championship game here at Three Rivers Stadium.
What year?
He said 76.
76.
He didn't stutter that time. Come on.
Okay, so just to revisit this game a little bit and the circumstances going, our dear friend John Smith was here last week and played for the Raiders, referred to Al Davis as Mr. Davis, which I told him at the time. I never heard very many people ever refer to him as Mr. Davis, and I love the fact that he had the respect for the man that signed him to his professional contract. But
And Cuddy.
Well, that's beside the
that's the nature of football, Jim. You know, you only have a job until the next better guy comes rolling around.
You know that better than anybody, Smokey.
But in the 70s, the Steelers and the Raiders rivalry was, the best rivalry in football. The Raiders were constantly battling the Steelers for the AFC Championship. They probably played in the AFC title game at least a half a dozen times in that decade. And Al Davis was absolutely convinced that the Steelers were pulling some chicanery. And, of course, Chuck Noll and the Rooneys felt that the Raiders introduced the criminal element into the game. So the night before the AFC title game, mysteriously, in a rainstorm, the tarp got blown off the field. So half the field, from the hash marks out to the sidelines, became saturated. Well, the temperatures dropped that night, and they called this game the Ice Bowl. They called it the Ice Bowl because a portion of the field was frozen, and both sidelines were a complete sheet of ice. So, however, the center of the field was fine. So Al Davis thought that the Steelers were pulling some chicanery there, which, whether they did or whether they didn't, makes for great stories. But the Steelers played that game, and there were 12 turnovers in that football game. There were 12 punts in that football game. So, the weather had affected everybody. Lynn Swann was knocked out of that game, knocked completely unconscious by a pair of defensive backs. Jack Tatum, George Atkinson, names that Steeler fans know very well from that era. And Joe Green carried an unconscious Lynn Swann off the field. But it was another Pittsburgh Steeler wide receiver that won the day for the Steelers that day. John Stallworth threw a key block on Franco Harris's 25-yard touchdown run that put the Steelers up 10-0. Shortly afterwards, the Raiders were to score to make the score 10-7. And John Stallworth also was able to find his footing when the Raiders receivers couldn't and caught a 20-yard touchdown pass to ice the game, so to speak, pun intended. But Al Davis, to the day he died, of course, he claimed that Frenchie Fuqua touched the ball in the Immaculate Reception, and he went to his grave believing that. And he felt that the Steelers iced the field to shut down Kenny Stabler in the Raiders' vertical passing attack. The Raiders had two Hall of Famers. I don't know if Cliff Branch made the Hall of Fame, but he should be. Mm-hmm. Cliff Branch and Fred Biletnikoff. Oh, yeah. Nobody could shut that pair down. And Cliff Branch only had 2 catches for very few yards in that game because he said every time he tried to get off the line of scrimmage, he slipped and he fell. Kenny Stabler was 18 of 42 passing and just couldn't get anything going because everybody was slipping and falling.
That's what kept him out the Hall of Fame.
Don't worry, he'll be elected this year, Jim.
You're quick this year, Smoking Jim.
40 years ago today, the Steelers beat the Raiders on the way to Super Bowl 10 championship when we beat the Dallas Cowboys, and Lynn Swann made the circus catches in that playoff game, and Terry Bradshaw was knocked unconscious at the end of the first half while he was completing a pass to Lynn Swann in the end zone. So that's what I got this week. Here's your trivia.
Cowboys didn't have no assassins in their secondary.
That was also the game when Jack Lambert planted Charlie Waters for taunting old Roy Gerella.
That was nice. And he talked his way out of getting thrown out, too.
Sometimes
yeah.
So I appreciate that.
It works out that way.
Thanks, Chip. I appreciate that.
Brought back a lot of memories from games my dad used to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame you weren't old enough.
I watched those games. I screamed my throat raw. It was a great time to be a Steelers fan in the 70s.
Yeah, it was. It was a big change.
When the 70s you had Jack Tatum, and in the 2000s you got Perfect.
Oh, no.
That's how bad
It
that
landed
joke was.
perfect,
That's
man.
how bad that joke was. That's the curse of wearing that hat.
Smoking Jim. Wow. I think a couple moths ate some holes in that. It's so old. All right, on location, we had a great night at Hollywood Lanes. Thanks for everybody coming out. We had great guests returning. Rebecca Ager with Jet Setter Magazine. She was on there. She's going to be doing a Leukemia Foundation fundraiser, so stay tuned for that. We had Tim Twaddle, Smoking Jim's trainer from the Meadows. Great guest. We had some other guys all the way from Meadville. NPC, Matt Black. We had a singer, Brian Cole, who actually helps with the Mary Lemieux Penguins Initiative and their foundation, helps with fundraising. And Smoking Jim, we've never had a guest on our show. When I say, what do? He goes, I play center for the Los Angeles Lakers.
That was good.
Now, he used the same line on me when I talk to him on the phone, because all the guests that I do get, except for the ones that Smoking Jim tries to get on here and I don't mention their names, I don't talk to them. So he said the same thing then. So you know when a guy's telling you he's a center for the Lakers that he's probably a midget. Well, he's 5'2", and he's a singer in the area, so check him out. You know, we just had great guests. We celebrated Billy Nardozzi's birthday. He's a big fan of ours. Thanks to Bonnie for bringing him out. So we had some fun. Jeffrey Park actually made it as a guest on our show at the end, all suited up. Lindsay Marie was our first guest. She's the manager there. Check out Hollywood Lanes. We'll be back the first Monday of each month. A lot of fun. They set it up nice, classy tables with tablecloths. Sure, it's a bowling alley, but Smoking Jim and I went all the way back, and they let us sign the wall right above Jerome, the bus, Bettis.
Yes, sir.
So we saw a lot of signatures. It's amazing with the people they know. So we're happy to be there, and we'll be back again. And the video will be up. And anybody looking for the photos, because Frank promised me he'd get them up sometime today. Well, he did. Right as I got to come out to get the pizza from Olive Oil's Pizzeria. Got a shout out to them again. Thanks for being our sponsor again for this year. The owner, Frank, was there. So he said, whatever these guys want, and believe me, I had some restraint. Because you know the best meal, as the guys from the Post-Gazette know, is a free meal. So we enjoy it thoroughly. But thanks for being our sponsor. So we'll be back again. Now check this out. We got Devin Shea, the best cameraman and the award-winning, not Rookie of the Year, but veteran with over 100 shows for the last 4 years. Look
right,
at that
Devin.
close-up here. Back at Atria's next week. That's Monday the 11th. Check it out. They got a nice new manager there, some new staff, old staff. And they're reviving that Talking Machine Big Mouth Burger. Mario, I did tell you that, and I got confirmation again it'll be there. You can be the first one to eat it like you did the last time.
I can't wait to get it.
Thanks for following us. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming out to see us, too. And thanks for all the guests. I know it's a lot of thanks, but I got one more thing to say. Like I was telling you in Bethel Park, I appreciate what you do, letting us do this show in Pittsburgh Sportsline and hearing the Talking Machine repeat himself 22 times or 23. Chief, you know how that is. Well, the mayor, Jack Allen, sent me a message last night right as we're going on the air for a show, and I thanked him for the honor. He gave me as some type of award that promotes somebody promoting Bethel Park and making it a great place to live in. So I want to thank you for that. It totally shocked me and surprised me. I couldn't make a comment about it for a while, and you know I come back strong. So thanks for watching. Mayor Allen, thank you very much for the award. The only problem I have is I can't be there in person at the council meeting like most people are. I'll be actually promoting Bethel Park, Pittsburgh Sportsline, our guests, and we'll be at Atria's PNC Park. So I'll be out in the neighborhood. Thanks to you guys for letting us do that. So it's a good year.
That's the key to the city.
It is. It is. I think he said something. All right, let's move on. I sort of tipped the hand on what I believe with the Steelers, and we're going to have our Steelers segment right now. And my belief is all the complaints, all the faults, all the flaws, I'm looking around the league. I see a lot of teams with flaws. Seattle, I thought, would never even be in the playoffs, let alone they're going to be in the Super Bowl. So it's going to be a rematch. That's my prediction. And I'm not like Smoking Jim. I'm not betting a house. This isn't a lock, but we'll see the Steelers and the Seahawks for the rematch, and we're going to see who's going to cry the most.
Bruce Arians.
No, he rode Mike Tomlin's coattails to a Super Bowl championship. He's not going to win one on his own.
Well, he won one with Bill Card.
Smoking Jim, this is Steeler talk, which we haven't heard you in over 3 weeks talk about Steelers.
Talk about our prospects for this weekend. What do you think our strong points are? What do you think our faults are?
And just be honest.
I'm gonna have to knock the Steelers a little bit.
That's
Listen,
not
That's a
surprising. First this year.
here's what makes me mad about your stubborn Pittsburgh Steelers. Listen, I've already said last night, I think the Steelers are a year away. I think next year they have an opportunity, if they shore up some things, to be a Super Bowl caliber team. This year, here's the problem. Last year, you kick LeGarrette Blount off the team, and you don't replace him with a veteran backup running back. Le'Veon Bell gets hurt. What happens? The Pittsburgh Steelers lose. They can't win without a running back. This year, Le'Veon Bell got hurt. You promote D'Angelo Williams. Now you got to go out and get you a veteran backup to D'Angelo Williams, because here's a little tip. Running backs get hurt often because they carry the ball and they take a lot of hits. Now the Pittsburgh Steelers are going into a football game with a running back that sounds like something I put on my breakfast sandwich, and no experience. They're getting a guy off the practice squad to back him up. Pass protection has always been a problem for new running backs, inexperienced backs. And here's a little tip. I think the Cincinnati Bengals win their first playoff game under Marvin Lewis.
And you hate Marvin Lewis.
Oreo cookie, black on the outside, white on the outside.
Well, you know, and I just kind of want to say one thing, and I do believe that the Steelers are as capable of beating the Bengals this weekend as they were 3 weeks ago when they went into Paul Brown Stadium and put it on the Cincinnati Bengals. But here's what my concerns are with the team. I think that Fitzgerald Toussaint is going to do just fine. Right now, the Steelers are a passing team. They really, I mean, to be honest with you, they can stretch any team lengthwise, widthwise. And what concerns me is that if the Steelers do beat the Bengals, Ben Roethlisberger is going to play a huge part in the Steelers beating the Bengals. Now, that being said, if the Bengals by chance were to beat the Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger will have a huge part in the Bengals beating the Steelers as well. With Ben, there's big risk, there's big reward, okay? And, you know, you got to live and die with the guy. I mean, last week I was really getting frustrated watching that game, the first half. It looks like, you know, you can't let these scrub teams stay within striking distance because all it takes is one breakdown in the secondary. Fortunately, Steelers got it together in the second half, completed some passes, put the ball in the end zone a couple of times, and the Steelers' pass rush awakened last week. 7 sacks in the game. James Harrison intercepted a ball in the end zone. I mean, these are some of the things that only happened to the Cleveland Browns. But, you know, that all being said, I do think if
Any of our Cleveland fans, go Steelers.
if Ben has the passing game working the way it can, some of the mistakes I saw Ben making this past week, he was looking down his receivers. He wasn't looking off the defenders. He was staring straight at who he's going to throw the ball to.
Why wouldn't you, though, Chip?
Both interceptions.
This guy's
his
running
rule
routes
were
and they're
right,
falling
they
down.
They jumped the routes. You know, I mean, he's got to do a better job of that. The offensive line, you know, Jim sometimes is unaware of the obvious, but the offensive line was doing a great job of protecting Ben. He didn't spend too much time on the turf on Sunday. If you keep Ben upright, he's going to make plays.
I agree.
Very true. And so what about 14 interceptions in 9 games? I mean, he would do that in 3 or 4 games in his rookie year or stuff, and even between that. And I understand. That's why I'm putting that all behind us, because we might as well not deal in reality. We argue about all these things, so I'm just giving my opinion. It's all behind us. Steelers are going forward to win. Why do I say that? Sometimes it's not just the best team, it's the luckiest team. And if you don't think they've been lucky on some of these, you aren't watching football. So I'll take lucky all day long.
And, and the way the playoffs are set up, as long as the Steelers can, we're not going to have to go to Foxborough. We would go to Denver next week, and then we're going to go
And
to Kansas.
Tebow's not in Denver.
And then we're going to go to Kansas City because they're going to knock off the Patriots the following week.
I got Houston beating Kansas City, but either way. But,
Smoking Jim's a known gambler. I'm not saying to gamble, because if you bet on this stuff, you're crazier than he is.
But all I got to say is I believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers are afraid of Burfict. And that may be the difference in the game.
And here's the thing.
I don't see that.
The last game the Steelers and the Bengals played, that was probably one of the dirtiest games I've seen.
Both sides.
Both sides of the ball. And what the Steelers have to focus their energies on is not reacting to what the Bengals are doing. And the referees need to take charge of that game at the beginning. If you've got that kind of stuff going on, you eject somebody, that solves the problem. And to be honest with you, last time we played Cincinnati, I'm sorry to say this, Antonio Brown should have gotten ejected in the first quarter when he was swinging at the defensive
I am glad
end.
you brought that up, because here's what I say. I agree with Chip on one exception, because you're allowed to have exceptions. We're not the commissioner. If it's Antonio Brown, let him get that out of his attitude so then he can go catching passes and set more records, because he does that all the time, because you're not allowed to touch him, and he comes right at you. So I like that. You're 5'10", and you got guys that are much bigger than you. And I got to get back to Burfict. The Steelers are not afraid of a guy they can't see. He's 5'5". He comes out of nowhere. The play's over. He's hitting somebody low. And he's not falling down because he's on the ground already. I want to get a couple things clarified right off the bat, because I'm going to hear all this afterwards. He's just a dirty ball player. He should have been suspended. If Goodell were not Goodell, he would have been suspended. Let's call it like it is.
The thing about Burfict is nobody would know who he is if he played the game clean and
He's
he played
all
it straight
pro.
on.
He's all pro.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, a couple people.
I beg to differ. I beg to
He
differ.
made the Pro Bowl last year.
Oh, he did that, but he's still a dirty player.
Last year
Just
was
like
like
your
this year.
heroes, Tatum and those guys, they were dirty ball players.
This is all you guys need to know. First of all, one of the mouthiest teams in the NFL is the Steelers. But here's
Is
all,
that a surprise?
here's all you guys need to know. Who won the last game between the Steelers and the Bengals?
It was fixed.
Steelers won.
It was
And
fixed,
and
that's why.
And the player that didn't play is Pac-Man Jones. He already put some stuff out there on Twitter. Pac-Man's ready. It's going to get down and dirty.
Yeah,
Now let me ask you a question,
Pac-Man
because
made
you're a
his
class.
name in a strip club.
Yes, he did. Yes,
he did more in a strip club than he ever did on a
That's
football
true.
field.
But let me ask you this, because I know that you're a guy that believes in sportsmanship. Me, I don't shake hands, whether win or lose. So I'm not a believer in shaking hands with the opposition, but everybody else does. Do you think Coach Mike Tomlin was wrong for not shaking Burfict's hand after the game? Burfict went to shake his hand, and Tomlin refused to shake his
No,
hand.
he's not a coach. I mean, you know what? He's a player. I have no problem with him not shaking his hand. He goes over and he shakes Marvin Lewis's hand. That's the only responsibility I think he's got.
Did you have any problem with all the Steelers not shaking Burfict's hand?
No.
Okay.
No, whatsoever. Okay. I mean, you know what? See, shaking somebody's hand at the end of the game, whether you're for it or against it, that's something I would do to an opponent that I say, laid it all on the line, played the game the way it's supposed to, and I got respect for you. And if I have no respect for somebody, I'm not going to shake his hand and pretend like he deserves to be treated with respect. I'm not going to go out of my way to create a big incident, but you know what? I'm sorry. People earn that right.
So when Marcus Gilbert says after the game that all I want for Christmas is to play Cincinnati because they're a bunch of chokers, if you're playing for Cincinnati, wouldn't that get you a little fired up?
Yeah, that
I mean, the Steelers bring a lot of this stuff on themselves.
And that all being said, but if that is what you need to get yourself fired up to play in the National Football League, you shouldn't be playing in the National Football League.
Really?
Just saying.
You're old school,
Well,
Chip.
I mean,
they do it all the time. He's
Vince-
quizzing you on all the stuff he knows
Vince
the answers.
Williams for the Steelers, the backup linebacker.
I know exactly what he said about Peyton Perfect. Right?
Huh?
Yeah, okay.
Better
Well,
than
you know what?
something. That's why Burfict
I
went to
personally feel
finding.
that you know what.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? I personally feel that you do your talking in between the white lines, okay? I think there's social media.
I gotta
and,
be the
you know, I
white
mean,
line.
I don't get it. I don't get
gotta
into
be the
doing
white
that.
line.
They don't
No.
have black lines on the field.
But the point being,
Smoking.
I think social media is a joke when people get into battles with people they don't even know. On social media. I mean, it's just completely ridiculous. Personally, I would do my talking. I'll knock somebody on their can. That's the way I speak to them when we're playing the
That's
game.
it, that's
in
it.
between whistles, you know,
That's it.
you don't sit there out on the field and you
Well,
don't.
let me ask you guys this.
You're on a
We're
roll
wrapping
this
up.
year. Smoking Jim.
I'm
Go
sorry
for
about
it.
this. This is
Come
good.
on.
I'm getting some good information here.
Me too.
How do you see? I know there has to be a chance for Cincinnati, even with a backup quarterback,
Sure.
to win a game at home. What do you think the Cincinnati Bengals need to do to win the game?
They got to
Score
challenge
one
That's
more
for
point.
both of you.
They got
Score
they
one
got
more
to
point.
they got to challenge the
I
Steelers
believe.
secondary because that's the weak link. Now, if the Bengals can keep the Steelers pass rush off of AJ McCarron, and they can beat our cornerbacks deep, which are beatable. AJ Green is one of the top receivers in the game. Tyler Eifert is
I love
probably
him.
one of the best
I love him.
tight ends. I think that if Cincinnati is going to beat the Steelers, AJ Green, Tyler Eifert are going to play huge roles in that.
And Cincinnati got one of
Smoking
the
Jim,
best
I'm going to
defenses.
give you the secret to this.
Yes, sir.
AJ Green, put him in as the tight end. Steelers can't cover tight ends. Run them through the middle of the field all day long, and you extend the field like crazy, and you'll keep the pressure off of McCarron. Didn't he win a national championship?
Yeah, his girlfriend.
Oh,
Him and his
okay.
girlfriend.
So he's not competent. My point is, you're one of the elite people in football
Good point.
ever, and you also come out of college as a winner.
Yeah.
The kid can do it. He's been under pressure. You don't tell me the Steelers weren't hitting him low in games. They were, because that's what the rules are.
You know,
So it happens. He withstood an onslaught. He could win the game anytime they want.
At the end of the day, the Steelers, I think, have more experience playing in these violent games. You look at how many times a year we
They ain't
played.
won a bowl
the-
game since they won a playoff
That doesn't
game
matter. They
since
won the game on the
first
field.
Bruce Arians
They
left.
won it in the
Yeah,
trenches.
well, there's nobody that plays for the Bengals right now that was alive the last time they won a playoff game. Okay, so let's call it what it is. But
Smoking. Try to stay with you're an honest man. Because you just
you're
slipped
making
out.
it seem like we're playing some juggernaut here. It's just rolling off playoff wins.
And Smoking Jim, the thing I'm proud about Tomlin is Tomlin's a player's coach, and he likes to be a thug because he said, I'm not worried about that. So he's playing right into what you're saying. So he has to walk off the field like he does and punch the sky and all this other stuff. I mean, there's no more standard. Let's call it like it is. The standard is not the standard because we
In
haven't
the last
heard
half
it.
a dozen years, how many times have we played the Ravens when they were just straight out knockdown,
Yeah.
drag out street fights? Play them 3 times a year when Ray was around. Steelers have a lot more experience at doing this.
And they're good at hitting illegally.
And I think, really the biggest advantage that Cincinnati has without Andy Dalton at quarterback, they have a chance.
Oh man! Oh, it's a shame he didn't make the Pro Bowl.
It's a
this year.
shame he
See
didn't
that?
make the lineup for this week. I'd just be chalking up the win right now.
Hey, he did take off his cast, though. Dalton took his cast off.
Yeah, it's off his right thumb.
Just so you know, it's off.
I'll let him play next week. I'll save him for next.
See, and you know what? When the Steelers and the Raiders played in the 70s, they didn't take their casts off until after the game.
Yeah, Phil Filippiano and those guys.
Oh, they made him that way. That way, they never talked about concussions as much as they do. And most of those players were concussed.
Yeah, that's true.
And they still come back and played. Look at Bradshaw.
Look at Lynn Swan. He was knocked out, completely knocked cold.
So they
Still
said.
played in the Super Bowl 2 weeks later. and I believe he was Super Bowl MVP that year. It may have been was it Swan or was it Bradshaw that year that was the MVP?
Swan.
I think Swan had that. Yeah, no doubt. Well, that was our Steeler talk. I hope you learned something. Well, I know you learned something.
And I'm not just being a homer, but I do like Steelers' chances this weekend.
Homer.
Just call me homie.
You know what? This is Pittsburgh Sportsline. You actually have a get out of jail card free for being a homer. All right?
That's okay.
So that's not a problem. And my thing is, I'm excited about the playoffs for the simple fact I didn't think we'd make it.
Me neither.
I didn't think we'd make it last week because I had to thank Rex Ryan for helping us in Buffalo. Who would even think that?
You see, they Permane Brothers sent a truckload of sandwiches up to the Buffalo Bills football team, their offices and everything to say thanks.
I know. Well, I like Permane's, but they're a chain now, and they were bought out.
Not that I'm thinking about. I had to take my friend right here to task for a moment.
Whoa.
Okay?
What took you so long?
Well, there's 32 teams in the NFL. 12 of them make the playoffs, but, somehow they're not being criticized for only being a wild card team, because that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're all overjoyed. We're calling for them to win the Super Bowl, but yet when the Pirates are a wild card team and make the playoffs, and they're one of 10 teams with 20 other teams on the outside looking in, just like in football, you're criticized and ridiculed. Okay, so they lost the last 2 years.
Deservingly so.
But hey, you know what? Making the playoffs is a tremendous accomplishment, regardless of what sport you play in, because you can't win the dance if you ain't on the dance floor.
Good point, and I totally disagree
Well,
with
the
everything.
biggest reason, I don't want to have to bring the film back up, and, we got Zach Anderson in the studio. Maybe he could bring up one of our old shows where Smoking Jim would say, and I'm kidding, I'm glad he's in tonight, and Jack's here helping. Devin's in here doing a superb job. Look at the cameras there. Hey, thanks.
It's like
The lighting.
poetry in motion back there behind the camera, man.
Oh, did
oughta
you wake
see
him
it.
up? Did you wake him up?
No.
Okay, good. I'm glad he's back. He is the best. And he's been the best with Pittsburgh Sportsline.
I'm telling you.
Can't go wrong. But Smoking Jim made this point about being a traditionalist in baseball. Now, he doesn't really know baseball, but he used that word. Now, we had Chip bring out something about the NFL and AFL, who the last teams in the AFL were to win before they, combined the leagues. He also brought up about the Steelers went from the NFL to now the AFC. Now, if you're a true traditionalist, and that would be the time to throw the word out, with the Steelers, they changed that. They gave away tradition to help the league. So what do you say about that? And then they started these playoffs and wild cards. It wasn't the top team in either league, which the AFL ended up becoming better because they were the top team in the AFL against the top team in the NFL. That's tradition. Now you changed. You're all in with football. Do whatever you want with wild cards. Don't do it with baseball. Now, I'm a baseball fan, so I'm a little fired up.
Well, you guys are revisited. The Steelers was the weakest team in the NFL.
They lost for 40-some years.
Yeah, they couldn't
Lovable
wait
losers.
They couldn't wait to get to the AFL. The only thing they wanted was Cleveland to go because that was their rival, even though
So they wanted to
Cleveland
make
beat
money.
them all the time.
Well, just the one.
But
What's your point?
But the thing with baseball
Uh-huh.
is that there's sometimes they don't even put a baseball player in the Hall of Fame. There's some years like that. But the tradition in baseball is so rigid for every particular statistics, for everything. And now all of a sudden baseball comes up, well, we're going to do the wild card.
Right.
And that's why I said that's something that's apples and oranges. The NFL is always changing. That's why it's the number one
The
sport.
reason
But
why-
baseball won't change for
Yeah,
anything.
no, and they did change, and they brought more teams into the playoffs because baseball expanded. They're no longer 24 teams. There's now 30 teams.
You know what I
And how
want?
do you increase attendance?
The only thing
in
I
a
want for
television audience?
here's how you increase the television audience in baseball.
Put Pete Rose in the
Bring-
Hall of Fame.
Well, that would do it because they love Pete Rose on the mic. They loved him in the playoffs. I almost watched that. But here's how you
Hold on,
increase.
did you say you almost watched
Almost watched it. Here's how you.
He was terrible.
Here's how you
They're not
increase.
inviting him back.
Here's how you increase popularity in baseball. It's only one way to do it. and that is
Juice.
bring the DH into
have
the
juice.
National League. You willing to bring the DH in the National
Well,
League?
absolutely
See?
not. I think that
kick
baseball-
out the wild card then.
No, you need to take it out of the American League. That's what you need to do, okay, my friend? Make the pitchers bat.
Hey, Smoking Jim, I think they should juice the baseballs up again.
I love that.
No, but here's
So they're
what.
flying out of the stadium.
One last thing on the Steelers playing the Bengals. 2005, Pittsburgh Steelers won the Super Bowl.
Chemo.
They were the first.
buddy.
They were the first team to go in as a 6th seed and go all the way to win the Super Bowl. Who was the first team they beat? Cincinnati Bengals.
You gotta
Where
start
did they
somewhere.
beat them? In Cincinnati. It's going to happen again.
Somebody going to cheap shot Palmer's knee again, or is this time they're going to do
Well,
it? to
yeah. Well,
McCarron?
if they play him in the Super Bowl, they will.
Everybody's talking about Burfict's cheap shot. Chemo, that was one of the cheapest shots you ever
Oh,
want to see
please.
taken out Palmer.
Oh, please.
And I love Chemo. That's my buddy.
He'll turn on anybody.
I love it. It was a cheap shot.
Come on, the Steelers are above that.
Did he get the flag get thrown?
No flag at all.
Okay, that's not a
How's
cheap
it a
shot.
cheap shot?
Because nobody referees didn't see it. They were looking at the ball going down the field. Why is Palmer screaming back there?
Smoking Jim, whatever you did during the holiday season, because I haven't seen you since then, you come back as a new man.
Jim, you and
You're
I,
making sense out of nonsense.
you and I are just not going to see eye to eye on some things, but I respect you anyhow.
I love you, brother.
I'm sort of enjoying this because Smoking Jim is like a new man. This brother from another mother, I don't know where he come up with all this stuff.
And I'll tell you,
you reading books?
I'll tell you what, he does keep me on my toes, and I love it. I love it.
Well, he's stealing a page out of my book where you just say no. And he's saying it another way. He's told you no in every way possible with every distraction possible. So I've been just sitting
But
there as a mediator.
I don't budge.
No. What's nice is it's just like two bulls ramming heads together here.
And neither of us got concussed.
Speaking of Bulls,
Yeah.
I went to the Brashear Bull game last week with Liz.
No, you
Costa.
bring it up.
Yeah,
I saw the selfie.
Enjoyed it.
Hey,
Enjoyed myself.
Did you go see that Gateway loss against the Norwood
I
Knights?
left at halftime.
That's why they.
Left at halftime.
That's why they lost.
I did see the selfie there, but how come you were 5 rows back?
Wherever Liz was, that's where I was.
Yeah, but you were 5 rows behind her. I counted. I'm like, wow, she really put you in the back. Poor Smoking Jimmy can't get to the front seat. Well, I'm glad you had some fun.
Yeah. I'll be there Friday again.
Where?
Brashear.
All the fans in the world in Pittsburgh. What time are you going to be there?
It's a city league game, so it's 3:00 in the afternoon.
Alderdice is actually one of the top-ranked teams in the state.
Yeah, they'll win state championship.
And I was taking a look at the basketball high school rankings for the high school basketball teams, and in Western PA, it kind of dominates the rankings in the state football rankings.
sir.
But basketball, Eastern Pennsylvania, there's very few teams that are even mentioned in the top 10.
Well, they
in any of the
concentrate on
divisions.
football. They like beating us, and boxing also. If you want to
Yeah,
study,
those
go
high
east.
those high school teams around Philly, and they know how to ball.
Yeah, they can play
Yeah.
some basketball. I think Alderdice got a chance to win a state championship in basketball this year.
Yeah, the Twins are still playing for them.
The Twins are still playing. Yeah, and they have a great point guard. They have a 6'10" white guy that's a senior.
Why are you
And-
always mentioning color?
And then they have a 6'8" brother that's
He's
also
black?
down low. Yeah, that's black.
Power forward.
And so they got everything that it takes. If they still have.
Well, you know what? It'll be interesting to watch this unfold as it
Yeah, I
goes.
can't wait. I'll be there. I'll be there Friday because they're playing Brashear.
I'll be at work.
Who's playing for sure?
Alderdice.
Really? Well, I may have a connection to Alderdice, so stay tuned.
Oh yeah? Okay, great.
Well, speaking of the City League, and I know with as many of the schools that have closed that are no longer around, there's fewer teams to play, in the City League, and that's really so tragic because so many good high school rivalries just don't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. City League's down to only 6 schools, so that's why.
Smoking Jim and Chip, I went to one of my friends that comes to our show, that Merrill. She sent me, would you be interested in having Buddy Valinsky,
That's
the
my
coach
man.
of Alderdice,
Yeah.
come here. And I was waiting because when you're telling me about Brashear, now your man, Buddy,
Yeah.
I just left a message before I come to the show to give me a call.
But tell him you
Yeah, it's because
you do a
his
show
phone,
with Smoking
his phone
Jim.
is not text only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can
But
actually
here's
call
the
him.
thing about Buddy most people don't realize.
Tell us now before he comes on our show.
Is that Buddy actually played in the Big 33 game. I mean the Big 33. I mean
football.
the basketball round ball.
McDonald's,
Round ball
He played
classic,
a round ball
right.
game when he played for Alderdice. And they had a great team with Happy Dobbs and those
You're
guys.
going back in the day.
Yeah, he told me about these guys, yeah.
Oh, I thought
So,
you saw
but
him.
yeah, great guy, great coach. I wish him the best of luck.
Well, I got his cell phone number if you need to call him.
All right, my man.
And thanks, Merrill, for being a fan
Hey,
out of nowhere.
Just before we, wrap
Close
up
this
the
first show up.
we've got the Penguins. There's signs of life in the patient. They've got a home-and-home series starting tonight here in Pittsburgh against the defending champion Chicago Blackhawks. Sid Crosby seems to have found his scoring touch. In the last 7 games, he scored 10 points. It's a step in the right direction. Penguins still have a long way to go, but this is
And they
one of
know
those.
it. They
This is
know
one
it.
of those things where I'm really. I'm giving him till the end of the month. I want to see what the new coach does, implementing his systems with the players, and to see what happens. But it appears that there's life in the patient. They may
I'm
make
happy.
something of this season before it's over with.
I'm happy to see it. Another little fact, I like trivia too. Letang has scored in every game since Sullivan's been the coach.
Wow.
That he's played.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, we know that. We were just talking
and
about
he-
he had to recover. But for every game, look, what did he scored 3,
He scored
3
6
points
points
in
last
2
week,
games,
and
yeah.
he was the third star in the NHL
which is huge.
for the week.
Right.
Which is, once again, this is what the
There's
Penguins
a guy, a hole in the heart,
stars.
concussed.
Really?
The stars on this team have to carry it, and they have to carry the day. That means people like Malkin, Crosby, Letang,
And they have recently.
Kessel, and they're starting to do that.
And that's what we asked for. And it takes a little while with things. Maybe the new coach is putting his system in there, or maybe he's just inspiring guys to play like they can play and to quit playing around with the puck. Get that puck in the net. Look at the one game I watched, they shot 19 times on goal, not counting in the second period they did that, not counting how many shots were blocked, about 10 shots. So when you think about it, Chip, that's like 30 shots on goal. They weren't doing that in a game.
But
So
that statistic,
that means a lot to me.
That statistic is a little on the misleading side because any puck that makes it to the goaltender and he has to steer it counts as a shot on goal. Now, how many of those shots are actual, real scoring opportunities?
Yeah.
But you are right. If you don't put the puck on the net, you're never going to score. So it's a step in the right direction.
If you watch a hockey game with me, I say shoot so many times. Just shoot the puck.
Me too.
I do too, but I don't have the O in it.
And Smoking Jim, I do not believe you. You finally come out where you finally went back to 2015. Thanks everybody for watching the show. We appreciate it. Thanks for all the new likes, new fans. Thanks Smoking Jim Frazier, Chip the Prophet Hayner, Devin Shea. Can't believe you lasted the whole time in here with us. It's been a while. And young Jack, he's out there. And Zach Anderson, thanks for the help in the control room. We didn't notice any glitches here. I didn't get any text messages when I needed to, like Devin does. And stay Joey strong.
This is not a race. On the road to financial independence, the winners are the ones who stay the course. Learn more about securing your financial future and choose to save. It will pay off in the long run.